This is Lee with Crashtesthobby.com, showing you how to build the toughest planes on the planet. Here is a list of the equipment that we're going to be using in this build. This video shows a few techniques which are different from some of our other videos. We start with screwing the motor mount onto the plate. I use 4 number 6 screws. Just make sure that the screws and the bomb drop hole are not directly over the spar so it's not damaged. The battery is back 2.5 inches and the radio slot is back 4.5 inches, and the radio slot is 10 inches wide. You can move these things around as needed, and as long as your center of gravity is correct, the exact location is not critical. I like to cut the radio slot with a soldering iron. Some people like to use a razor blade or a box knife. If you have any extreme tape that's underneath the laminate, you may want to trim it out with a razor blade before you cut with a soldering iron because the soldering iron does not like to cut through the extreme tape. I cut the battery hole in layers because the soldering iron won't reach the whole way, and then finish by cleaning it out with a screwdriver. And I clean my ink off with a little alcohol on a paper towel. Mark your servos. You want them tight. If they move, your plane will not fly well. Once again, I'm cutting with a soldering iron. Sometimes I use an X-Acto knife. Make sure the servo is tight in the hole. And then using my soldering iron, I enlarge the hole for the tabs that are on both ends of the servos. You want your servo to sit so that the top of the servo is even with the top of the wing. This protects your servo in collisions, also helps to decrease wind drag. So as you're trimming it, just make some minor adjustments until it fits the way you want it to fit. I like it so just the servo arm is above the top of the wing. Using my X-Acto knife, I make a mark on the radio slot so that I know where to put my Velcro. I can see through the extreme tape and laminate where the front of the Velcro goes, but the Velcro will hold the battery and the radio into the plane. Trim the Velcro to length. Let's now install the receiver and the speed control. Once again, I use my soldering iron and trim out a hole for the receiver. Make sure you also leave room for the wires which come out of one end of the receiver. Now I do the same for my speed control. Using a straight edge as a guide, I enlarge the hole for the speed control. Make sure that it fits. And scrape it out so that the wires will have room to be underneath the speed control when it's fully installed. Using the soldering iron, I also cut a path for the wires of the speed control to go to the motor. And I enlarge the hole where the speed control is so that there is some ventilation around the center of the speed control. And it wasn't shown, but I also enlarged the hole slightly around the Velcro so there was room for wires. The wires go down to the bottom of the slot, and the speed control fits in place, and I plug the speed control into the motor. This is a demonstration just of how easy it is once the holes are cut to put the radio in and out of the plane. This makes trading parts easy, even at the flying field, because everything but the servos is easily removed and replaced right on the flying field itself. To change the direction of the motor, you trade any 2 wires of the 3, and the motor will change directions. I'm using a drill to enlarge the hole in the servo arm so that the pushrod will fit through. I drill this in the second hole from the center so that I get maximum leverage to my elevon. You'll notice that I bring the push rod up from the bottom with a Z-bend. Now I'm turning the radio on and binding it and making sure everything works before I get everything glued in. After making sure all the parts fit, it's time to glue the servos in place. Don't fill the hole with glue and press the servo into it. Just glue around the outside edge so that you can remove the servos later without tearing your whole plane apart. I'm now demonstrating how to use hanger tape or strapping tape to put a prop guard on the back of the plane. First time I saw this done, someone did it with a coin, but I take a piece of the strapping tape and just bend it so it fits over the wing so that the prop will not cut into the back of the wing in combat if it gets knocked out of alignment. Doing the other side, just put a piece of Scotch tape over it to hold it in place so it's easily removed and easily changed. I like to put the push rod into the servo arm from the bottom up and then position the servo arm one click forward. Now we need to position the elevon horns. You want the holes in the elevon horn to be as close to the hinge line as you can get it. Notice how I'm actually using the push rod as a guide to draw the line out for the angle to cut the elevon horn. I use a soldering iron to punch a hole, and this hole isn't necessarily to make the horn fit, it's to allow glue to flow up the sides of the horn towards the top and glue it more firmly in place. I take the glue gun and just squeeze glue up around the horn and under the base, and then apply glue from the top. Make sure there's plenty of glue there so that it ties itself well into the horn. Let's do the other side here. I push it in and I make sure that the front of that horn is right along the hinge line. Using a drill, I make the hole large enough to put the easy connector in. I put the snap on, and notice the snap is backwards because it fits better on these big horns. Then I put the screw in place that holds the wire in place. Now I'm cutting the wire to length. With my soldering iron I punch a hole, and in this hole I'm going to put one of the wire guides. After putting some glue in the hole, and I push it down, I don't want the glue to squeeze up around the wire. Let's do the other side. Drill out the horn, put the easy connector on, snap it in place, put the screw in place, cut the wire to length, measure and put a wire guide right in the middle, put glue in the hole, and then scoot the wire down on. This keeps the wire from flexing and extending. Spray your fins if you're doing fins. After they're dry, mark the top of the wing, and I like to use a soldering iron and cut a gap for a piece of tape. Then I make both fins the same. I put a piece of reinforced tape through it, and I put some goop on the end of the wing. It will work without the goop. But then press the fin in place, make sure the tape is tight and holds it in place while the goop cures, and then a piece of tape around the leading edge keeps that from peeling away in flight. And here's the other side. Flip the plane over and glue the Velcro strap down. This keeps it from moving and falling out and sticking to other planes. Now we're going to align the elevons and tighten down the easy connectors. You want the elevon aligned with the back bottom of the wing, and tighten it down so that it can't slip. Do this on both sides of the plane. Your elevons should now be moving so that when you push to the right elevon goes up when you're standing behind the plane. When you push to the left elevon goes up. When you pull back, they both go up. When you push forward, they both go down. You want the elevons to move up and down 3/8 of an inch. You can increase this as you become a better flyer. You want to balance the plane on the spar, which is back 6.5 inches, which on this plane is the center of gravity. You can add lead to the nose if you need to help balance the plane, or put a bigger battery in. We are now checking the linkages. Make sure your servos are tight, your wire guides are tight, and that your easy connectors are tight. And with your radio off, you should be able to move the elevon from the tip and turn the servo. Make sure your fins are in place. Put your battery in your plane. Let's go flying. Here once again, here is a list of the different electronic parts we have used on this build. Thank you for watching. This is Lee with Crash Test Hobby.